There was a park in my neighborhood that I used to go to pretty often. I've never really liked crowded places, and this park was usually almost empty, which made it perfect for walking alone and clearing my head. About 3 years ago, I went there for a walk late one night, probably around 11 or midnight. As I approached the entrance, I noticed two men standing there, staring at me. Something about the situation immediately felt off. That park was usually pretty empty, especially at night. If anyone was there, it was usually couples or people walking their dogs. So seeing two grown men just standing around doing nothing felt strange. Anyway, I started walking. The trail led past a small hill that connected to what was basically a wooded area, almost like a small mountain. At night, nobody really walked up there, and most of the lights were turned off, so it got pretty dark and honestly, kind of scary. Normally, I'd just walk around the outer paths and head back, but that night, I felt like walking a little farther in. As I was walking, I suddenly heard rustling coming from the woods. It startled me, and I looked over. There are usually small animals around there, so at first I assumed it was just that, but then I noticed something white in the darkness. I turned on my phone flashlight and pointed it toward the sound, and that's when I saw them. Several men were staring directly at me. Their heads were almost level with the ground, like they were lying flat or crouched down. I instantly got chills. I pretended like I hadn't seen anything and just kept walking past them. But as I continued walking, something started bothering me. For a split second, I thought I'd seen someone's bare foot between their faces. It happened so fast that I convinced myself I must have imagined it. I felt a strong urge to turn around, but I didn't, because I had this overwhelming feeling that if I looked back at them, something bad would happen. The only sound I could hear was my own footsteps. It was completely silent. No insects, no wind, nothing. Even without turning around, I somehow knew they were still there, watching me in that same prone position. I left the area as quickly as I could and took the long way back home. I debated calling the police, but the situation felt vague. What if they were just messing around in the woods? I didn't want to overreact. So I went home and eventually fell asleep. That night, I had a dream. In the dream, I was walking through the same park again, and from inside the woods, a man was running toward me, except he only had an upper body, no lower half. He was crying while staring directly at me. I woke up, gasping for air, my heart pounding like crazy. I could clearly remember his face, but I had no idea who he was. The next day, I finally reported what I'd seen to the police. They said they would check the area, but I never heard back from them. When I went back to the park sometime later, there was no sign that anything had ever happened. There was no disturbance. I was too afraid to go deep into the woods. And honestly, after that night, I stopped going to that park altogether. It's still a mystery to me what happened there that day. I was 10 years old when this happened. My mother had gone to a wedding with her sisters, and it was already past 1 a.m., but she hadn't come home yet. Back then, I couldn't sleep without her around. I kept waiting, my young mind restless, the silence of the night stretching on. Cell phones weren't common in the 90s, so I had no way to contact her. Unable to stay inside any longer, I stepped out into the gallery of our house. A tall fence enclosed it, with bars running along the upper section. I dragged a chair over, climbing onto it so I could peer over the gate, hoping to catch sight of my mother returning. The street outside was eerily quiet, completely swallowed by the night. Minutes passed, nothing. Then, out of nowhere, my father appeared behind me. His sudden presence startled me. "Go to bed," he said.
"I'll wait,"
I replied stubbornly. He sighed and said, "Fine, I'll wait with you." Just then, the front gate creaked open. My breath hitched, but there was no one there. The air felt thick, oppressive. My father and I stood frozen, staring, and then a figure stepped forward, a masked man. He moved with a strange calm, his presence almost unnatural. A firearm glinted in his hand, and then he fired multiple shots at someone behind him. The gunshots shattered the stillness of the night, echoing down the empty street. My father and I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. We weren't just witnessing something horrific, we were a part of it now. Then, as if sensing us, the masked man slowly turned his head and looked right at us. A wave of terror unlike anything I had ever felt gripped me. He had seen us, we had seen him, and he knew it. Without hesitation, he raised his gun and fired in our direction. Time slowed. My mind went blank. I felt like my life was flashing before my eyes. Before I could even react, my father grabbed me, yanked me off the chair, and rushed me inside. The door slammed shut behind us. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. We immediately called the police. My mother arrived 30 minutes later, and soon after, the authorities followed. They searched the area, questioned people, but they found nothing. No masked man, no body, no signs of gunfire, nothing. It was as if he had never been there. But I know what I saw. My father saw it too. Who was the masked man? Who, or what, was he shooting at? I still don't know, and maybe I never want to. Hello, my name is Amelia, and I'm 17 years old now. This happened when me and my best friend Flora were 13. We grew up in a small village in the UK and spent that summer hanging out in the local, slightly secluded park with our friends Callie, Adam, and Tommy. Telling this story still gives me chills. This was in the summer of 2020, the height of COVID-19, when hardly anyone was outside. Flora, Callie, and I rode our skateboards every day and knew the park's hidden spots like the back of our hand. As summer went on, we started noticing a tall man in his late 50s, gray hair, yellow-tinted biking glasses that made his face look sunken, and deep red gloves. He was unmistakable. He rode a bike on the gravel trail that looped the park, and we kept seeing him at the same time every day when we met up. The first time he approached us, he said, "Hi, kids. I've seen you playing around here quite a lot recently." Flora and I jumped. Callie and the boys turned to face him. His voice was low. "Are you having fun?" he asked. We nodded. He waved and rode away, saying, "I'll see you around." A few days later, we tried to ignore him, thinking he was just an odd, lonely local. Then Adam swore he saw camera flashes and yellow-tinted glasses in the bushes, and that reminder made us uneasy. Not long after that, he sat on a bench across the field with a camera around his neck, smiling and waving at us. He called out, "I'll see you later," and we hurried home that evening. The next morning, we messaged in our group chat, terrified that he might be taking pictures at the park. Flora and I decided to hang out at her house instead. On the walk to the corner shop to grab lunch, we looked up and froze. There he was, walking out of the shop, carrying groceries in his red, gloved hands. Without greeting us, he said, "See you very soon, girls." His grin stretching impossibly wide before he rode away. Petrified, he sprinted back to Flora's, locked the door, and messaged the others to come over. Soon, everyone arrived and we barricaded ourselves in the living room with blankets and sleeping bags. We tried to watch movies and joke around, but the fear kept us on edge. Around 10 p.m., while the house was quiet and rain drummed outside, Flora and I stayed awake, whispering under the covers. Then, faintly at first, we heard bicycle bells, and then tires and brakes screeching outside our front door. Tears pricked my eyes. We woke up everyone. From the other side of the door came frantic, hard knocking and a low voice. "See you inside." The pounding got louder and angrier. Adam whispered, "Where is a phone?" Callie crawled across the floor and grabbed Tommy's phone. Tommy dialed. We heard every knock like it was trying to break the wood. We all clung together, crying, as the knocking continued and then suddenly stopped. Police arrived not long after. We opened the door and let them in. They asked questions and searched the village that night, but there was no trace of him. He was never found. He's become Red Glove Man in our town, a name we'll never forget. and a story that still sits at the center of every summer memory we have.